You're listening to the Arts Ed Podcast, Season 3, Episode number 22, Lessons We've Learned This Year 3.0. Welcome to the Arts Ed Podcast, conversations through the perspective of the arts and education, hosted by educators and artists Shauna Longo and Edric DeBose. Hey, Edric.
Hey.
I can't believe we're at 3.0, the end of the third season of this podcast. It feels like we just started yesterday. And how did we get here?
Yeah, it's still the same conversation, though. That's really what it is.
100%, really. And I mean, if we were truthful, we just didn't document. This conversation has been going on for like over a decade. It just didn't exist in a way we could share it with others.
Yeah.
So today we're going to talk about some lessons we've learned this year, and we're definitely going to like connect it to previous episodes. So hopefully everybody listening is up to date, because we're going to make some connections back, because that influences what we've learned. A lot of it comes out of what we talk about through this podcast.
Right.
So Your Brain on Art. We both are very enamored with this book. I plan on reading it. I have 3 books sitting at my house to read. And then I plan on going back and reading it again, because I think it's one of those rare books that you can read over and over and over and fall in love with it even more and find and get more out of it.
Right. Well, the thing for me about that book is that as I was reading it, I realized this is the first book I've ever read that really is science-based. It's biologically based. It's not just philosophy or psychology. And that was the difference. And so because you said to me, you're going to want to read this book.
I did.
And it was true. So it's not a quick read, but it's not, it doesn't take forever, but it's like you really got to, there's so much content, so much you can dig into. But again, it's really about the biology. And so really quickly, I'm going to try to sum up how this book connected to so much other stuff that I read. So I talked the biological neural pathways, right? That idea that your sense of sight and your sense of hearing and your physical motor experiences are hardwired before language comes in. So just in terms of human evolution, that's why those pathways get to deeper levels of your experience and your understanding how you live in the world, because those pathways are, they're there even before we have these words and stuff to talk about, these ideas that float around in our heads. Also, the idea of the default network, right? So the survival instinct. This book I read a while ago is called "Your Survival Instinct is Killing You," right? And that was the idea that you're on high alert. We're not in the jungles anymore. We're not out in the wild anymore. You don't have to be afraid. But however, your biology, your brain doesn't know that. So your brain is always constantly looking for things to be afraid of. So that is something you have to work against. And that for me was powerful, because it's like, it's not about your personality. It's like, if you are a human and the owner of a brain, right?
Yes.
You have to deal with it. It's going to be there. It's going to get in the way. The other thing about Brain on Art was they talked about engaging the senses to make sense of the world, right? So that, again, an extension of how information comes into you and what you learn. The idea of art as art's used for healing and neuroplasticity, the way in which the brain can change. Neurons are connected or become disconnected. There was a great story about healing, about this one soldier who came back from Iraq, and he said he was okay physically, but not mentally, emotionally.
Yeah,
he said I almost wish I'd lost a limb so I could show people, right? But and so the process of being able to make masks, right, and make an artwork that expressed what he was feeling was healing for him. So just so the idea that arts are really about healing.
Well, and that's why it took so long for mental health to become, I don't want to say mainstream, but to be accepted and to be prominent in our society. It took much longer than anything else. You broke your arm, you went to the doctor, you got it healed. But because people can't see it and they don't fully understand it, and they can't just take a picture and say, oh, that's what's wrong. It's so layered, our brains. And I think that that's a part of that piece of that puzzle.
Right. So they talked about neurology and the arts. So the neural arts triad, the way in which the body and the brain bring information into the system, the pleasure or enjoyment received from the art experiences, and how that activates all the good stuff, oxytocin, dopamine. And then those are connected to, trust, generosity, compassion, connection. and even the idea of lowered anxiety, like lower cortisol levels, right?
Yep.
And then third, the need to create meaning from our experiences. That we are, creatures that need to generate meaning and create meaning. We live from that. We have these narratives that we operate from, which connected me
Well,
to. Okay.
but before you go there, I'm gonna jump in, because this also brings back, like, one of the reasons I connected with this book, and Edric and I have talked about this offline, is it finally gave me the scientific backing of why I knew the arts were so important in schools. And we always said it and it sounded cliche, but now this gave us the science behind it. And I immediately took nuggets from the books and created huge posters that I used as advocacy posters when we had, like, 8th grade parent night, their first introduction to the high school, and we put on display our arts courses and offerings, and we engaged the parents in conversations using that science backed proof of why the kids should continue with their art studies and what it could afford them, and talking about it from, like, wellness and mental health, and how our courses will lower, the oxytocin and dopamine levels, and what that will do for the students. And one of our advocacy things was, instead of encouraging them to take a flex period where they're on their devices and they're not really de-stressing, how about have them take an art class where they're, like, sitting and making meaning and being one with themselves, with, good music in the room, and creating. That's really going to have a more profound effect on their mental health than a study hall, or as many places call them, flex periods.
Right.
So anyways, I want to throw that out there, that there's a ton in there that you can use. And I'm going to be honest, I used AI to help me craft mine.
Yeah.
100%. And it was super useful.
So if you're listening, go get this book. It's worth it.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because when I said to Edric, you got to read this book, he's like, okay, can I borrow it? And I was like, no, you need your own copy, because you're never going to give it back to me. Or you're just going to go, I need to buy my own copy anyways. Because yeah, for sure.
So again, to pick up on the last point, the need to create meaning. There's another book I read, Arthur Brooks. It's called The Meaning of Your Life. And he talked about the idea of this coherence and the importance of your world has to make sense for you. And again, the arts is one of the ways of exploring the world and getting it to make sense. But he came up with an idea that was really valuable. He talked about, the right brain, left brain thing. And he said, yeah, that's kind of cliche, but there is something to it in terms of that kind of separation of the two things. He talked about the complicated and the complex. And he said, we have problems that we live with that are complicated, schedules, finances,
life,
logistics, that all that stuff is complicated. He said, and then you have the complex, and those are like human relationships. You can't solve them. You just have to live with them. And so what I've been doing since I read that is, like, I'm thinking, is this complicated or is it complex?
I love that. I never thought of it that way.
Can I figure this out and can make a plan to make it sense, or is this is just something I have to live with?
Yeah.
I have to figure.
And there's definitely a difference. And I think there's power in having that conversation with yourself of, where does this fall? Because it helps you realize whether you have the power to change it,
yes,
or you don't, and or how soon. You know what I'm saying? Like, how long do you need to live with this?
And if you can't change it, how do you position yourself in relationship to it?
Right.
And that's huge, right?
Yeah.
So asking yourself questions like, well, what am I feeling? What would I prefer to be focused upon, right?
Yes.
Again, but those are all the things that come out of the arts. If you're making art as an artist, as a musician, again, what's my motivation? As an actor,
and you're portraying a feeling.
Yes.
You're focusing on a feeling through that artistic process in whatever art form it is.
And that process that's your self-awareness. I mean,
yes.
you can use that process to look at yourself. What am I really feeling right now? What is it, is it complex? Is it complicated? What do we know? And the last thing was the idea of flourishing, right? This idea that it's not just about being happier, right? There's another book, The Flourishing is. So the authors of Brain on Art also work with Seligman, and his book was about flourishing. And he said it's not just about being happier, but it's about being connected to a meaningful way, connected to people in a meaningful way that supports your growth, your creativity, and your self-realization, or your best self. And that's all that Maslow, Louise and then Bloom's taxonomy. It's all right in there. This is a great book, folks.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
The last point I want to bring in is you mentioned Aaron. You're going to be talking with him later.
Yeah.
Here's what I got from him. So gratitude as a strategy for remaining connected to others. You know, because at one point we asked him, well, what motivates you to do this work? And he said very
Right.
simply, he said, I love it.
Yes.
And it was, you didn't really need more than that, but there's something. But I also appreciated the way he named all his teachers.
Mm-hmm.
He was very clear about this person gave me this person gave me that, this person gave me this. And when you do that, you understand that, you know, a lot of what you are is comes to you from other people's, and that gratitude, it puts you inside of a larger world. It makes it easier, I think, for you to connect to what you're doing. It's like even your students, right? Just even the difficult,
Yes.
so-called difficult students, you get something from them.
100%.
If you're in the right frame of mind, they will teach you something. You know, I think.
Well, I always say, like, you have to learn from every experience, whether you learn a positive or a negative.
Right.
Depends. It may not always be a positive learning experience, but you
Right.
still got to take something from it.
And that is a technique for just remaining grateful.
Yeah,
For-
absolutely.
Like you can actively work at, having a grateful attitude. And
Yeah, and I think that also connects with grace,
okay.
having grace and having
Yeah.
empathy.
Right. Yes.
And I've been talking to people about that a lot lately, of like stepping out of our personal tunnel vision
Right.
and trying to have more empathy and grace from where others may be coming from, or what all they may have to be thinking about. Yeah, I think it's really important, because we all lead overscheduled, overbooked lives, and sometimes we can get sidetracked, derailed from having grace and empathy and gratitude.
Right. I think so. I think to go into our last point, that's one of the things that this book, again, for me, is important, because you go back to that idea of survival instinct, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, again, it's not personal. It's
Mhm.
your biology, because your brain is, so your brain is always trying to ask you, are we safe? Are we okay?
Right.
Is there something we need to be running from? And when you understand that's not just you, it's your hardwiring. It's there to protect you. You can kind of sidestep it, So
Yeah, absolutely.
so the last thing for me was, like, we talked about multitasking. That's one of the things
We've had many conversations about this that have evolved over the years, by the way.
Yeah. So the thing with, so this is something I'm learning. This is something I'm digging into right now. That's really helpful for me, and it's this idea of not, because I'm ADD on acid. I just have one of those brains that just does not stop. I can't
Yeah.
sleep sometimes, because, and so I think for people like me, we have this idea of holding all this stuff in mind. I got to do this. I got to do that thing. I got to do this. I got to. And so what I'm discovering, though, is that it's not about holding it all in mind at once, right?
Mm-hmm.
Again, and everybody's life is overcomplicated. Everybody's got a lot going on. Everybody's got a lot to do. But what I'm discovering is it's really a matter of being able to switch your attention.
Yes.
And
You have to be able to turn things on and turn things off.
Right. And you can learn to do that. I've been living in a mental state where I can't switch it on and off, but or I felt like I couldn't. I wasn't aware of the fact that I needed to. But the more I become aware of it, the easier it becomes to do.
Yeah, it is definitely an awareness, because and you and I have talked about this, because you'll be like, how do you get all that done? And you know what I mean? We've had those conversations, and I'm like, okay, focus on one thing, and it's an ability to quickly shift or move from item to item, where you let one go when you move to the next, because you can't park in one place mentally. You're gonna perseverate. Is that how you say it? Perseverate?
Perseverate, yes, yeah.
Yeah, perseverate. When you look at something and you're like, wait, what? Is that right? You can't park there and then and then start doing something else. You have to be able to, like, let that go, focus on this in the moment. It's like that shelf. You put it on a shelf,
Yes.
and you're going to come back and get it.
Right. You have a place to put it.
You know,
so it's not you're not tripping over it as you're walking through the room.
correct. But it's still there. You can go pick it back up when you're ready to, when you need to.
And you know where it is. It's on the shelf right over there. So for me,
Yes.
it's about time, and again, psychological time. The way you experience time psychologically.
Okay.
It's not about linear time. It's about the way that time operates in your brain. If you're constantly worried about stuff that you need to get done, if you're able to compartmentalize and say, look, from 5 o'clock to 6 o'clock, I'm going to sit down for 1 hour.
Yep.
Just do that thing.
Yeah.
And I might not finish it, but I'll certainly get into shape where I'll 30 more minutes or another hour, and I'll be able to knock it out. And when you, the more, for me, again, this
Yeah,
is
no, listen, and I think that's an important skill. You have to be able to understand. And I was talking with a teacher today that was like, yeah, we had to do this new project. I wasn't sure how much time it was going to take. So I kept putting it off because I didn't know what I needed to allot physical time wise, right? And psychologically to devote to it. Eventually I had to just rip off the band-aid. And I do that all the time. Like how I'm surviving is very dramatic way to put it, but like how I make it all happen, because I always, with the job I do, I have a million details in my brain at all times, and I tend to like fixate and not let them go and wake up at 4 in the morning thinking about something. Is on my phone, the reminders app, and in my Google Calendar, the tasks. And so I'll be like, oh, I need to do that. I go to my calendar. Oh, I have an hour here, and I put a task in, and that's when I'm doing that thing. When Edric and I got on this call, I was like, I was feeling like I was drowning. I was barely treading water earlier today, but I got a bunch of stuff off my plate because I had scheduled in my calendar when I was going to do them and kind of blocked it out. And when that time ended or I finished, mark complete, and it was done. And if it wasn't, then I would have blocked out more time, somewhere else.
but there's really, just for whatever it's worth, there's
Yeah.
really the difference between hearing this as a good idea and then actually trying it and seeing what it does. And I think,
Absolutely.
and for me, the upside is really what you talked about before, getting it done so it's not on your brain.
Yeah.
So, and what that does for
Because
me,
it turns into a burden.
and it prevents me from being creative.
Yeah.
It prevents me from enjoying the other pieces of my time in my life, where I can't get away from this thing and enjoy where I'm at presently. I can, for me, it's about art and music.
Right.
It becomes difficult to. Well, I shouldn't be working on music, because I need to do this. It's like, no, I have the space. You have the time to do that thing that you love doing.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I think we have to keep recentering ourselves, being deeply connected to our why as motivation. I think that you have to remind yourself, and sometimes maybe you write it on a Post-it note and just have it there in front of you and look at it every so often, just to kind of bring you back to why you're doing it, or maybe it's a picture of something or whatever it might be. But yeah. All right. So multitasking, not really multitasking. It's the ability to, in our definition, ability to shift from one thing to another, but you gotta like let one go before you go on to the next one. And I think if anybody takes anything from this, I hope that can help some people, because a lot of people struggle with time management and getting tasks done. I'm also the type that I'm not a last minute person. I want to have it done way in advance. I like to live with it, go back to it when I have the space to and I think that's where you're talking about how it hinders your creativity. Yes. I need to get it done so I have the space, because then it's done. Mm-hmm. To be creative and revisit it, to then add and make it better. Do you know what I'm saying? And that aligns with what you're saying. Mm-hmm. It's just two different approaches.
Right.
But I
think
both with the same goal.
I think what you said also too about being connected to your why is really important, because that also helps you to figure out what matters and what doesn't.
Yeah.
Because again, we all have a lot to do, and more stuff, especially as teachers, more stuff gets thrown at you all the time.
Yes. If only people just taught.
And so you have to decide: does this matter or not? What am I really here for? What is this work that I do?
And yes, but you still have to get down the stuff that doesn't connect to the why. You gotta just get it done, right, so you can shift that focus back to the why.
Yes.
Because if you don't get it done, it's lingering in your brain and it's taking up space that takes you away from your why.
Yeah.
And limits your creativity and giving of yourself fully.
Yep.
So, all right. Well, thanks everybody for another great season. This ends season 3. We will see you all back in September for season 4. We are super excited. And thanks for being along this journey with us, to be continued.
Yep. Thanks for having lunch with us.
Absolutely.